Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Joseph. Today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys 5 tips that I feel are going to help you up your natural light photography game. Now the first one that I think a lot of people overlook is doing a survey, like doing a recce of the location. I know that you guys are professionals, you can handle any situation, but I still feel like it's very important for you to go out onto the location maybe a couple of days before the actual photo shoot. Do your own research. You can even go with your camera and your lens that you plan on shooting in that day, take a couple of stills, have a feel of the place, and I feel that is going to help you actually work faster on the actual day of the photo shoot because you've already picked out some areas that you think are going to look flattering for the images that you plan on capturing, right? But if you don't go, you might end up being overwhelmed with the location and you might end up slowing down the entire shoot. So by all means, before the actual shoot, just plan it ahead a couple of days earlier or maybe a week, whatever time that you have. It's just important that you go on there, have your own experience of the place, plan out the areas that you want to shoot, and it's actually going to help you figure out certain things. Maybe there are some technical issues that you might encounter, but because you're able to go there a day before, you actually planned and solved that issue or brought the actual equipment that you need to be able to shoot in that location. So this tip actually cuts across with the natural light, artificial light, whatever the case is. You have to absolutely go and check out the location. It's very important so you're not surprised on the day of the photo shoot. Now the second tip, which I think is very important, is to time your shoot. So if you're using natural light, you know that the only light source that you're actually going to be using to light your subject and the scene is the sun, right? So you need to know if you want to shoot in the morning, whether you want to shoot late afternoon because the sun is flattering around that time. You have very interesting colors and skies around that time, like later on in the afternoon, getting to the evening when the sun is about to set. But you can also plan your shoot for midday. The only thing is you need to plan adequately for that. So if it's in the morning, for example, and you don't want to have like that top-down light in your images, then you know that probably you should plan to have your makeup done early in the morning, maybe 7 a.m. if it takes about an hour. And usually when you're shooting with natural light, you're not shooting so many different outfits. It's just about a couple of them, maybe maximum 3 or 4. So you know that you can finish with that entire session in about 4 hours maximum. So maybe start makeup at 6:30 or 7 a.m. if possible. Start shooting around 8 or 8:30 and make sure by 11:30 you're out of the place, and then you get the direction light that you need and you're able to capture images quickly. And because again you did a recce of the place, you know the exact points that you're shooting, and your shoot is going to go really fast, and the clients or your friend or your model or your subject is going to really appreciate you and see you as a professional. So now the next point I want to talk about is using your environments as props. So if you've already gone ahead to do the research I mentioned earlier, if you've also figured out the time of day that you want to shoot, you know that there are certain things that are present in the location that you can use as props. So if you're shooting like midday where the sun is top down, probably there are some shadow patterns that are being cast on a wall or on your subject depending on where you're positioning them, where you have some dappled lighting which is going to give you like a very beautiful effect, or there is going to be like some interesting trees that you can incorporate into your shoot, and then let your subject play with them. Use those elements as props to add more visual interest and make the shot more dynamic. I think it's really important if you do that. So every scene or every place that you're going to is going to be unique because every area has its own naturally existing prop that you can incorporate into your photo shoot and help you capture very beautiful, amazing and unique portraits of your subject. And it's going to help you elevate your natural light portraits because it's not going to be boring, it's not going to be static. You are incorporating your subjects in the background, letting them play with the elements, and actually even bring your own props. You can also add props to your sets, just make the whole thing beautiful to look at, and just give the image more of a story. Another point I want to add is that you guys should consider shooting shallow when you're shooting with natural light. Sometimes the location that you're in, again, if you did the research before, you notice that probably the client chose this location, but it's not really going to be aesthetically pleasing if you make it visible in your shot. So now you can plan to shoot shallow and blur everything in the background. Not necessarily like blur it into oblivion, but you can just defocus the background, and it also adds like a bit of separation, more depth, visual interest to your shots. Sometimes when you blur the background, the colors that it creates in the background just looks unique and works very well with the images that you're creating. So shoot shallow so it's not distracting from your subject, the core image that you want to capture, but then just use those blurry backgrounds as visual interest to make your shots dynamic, interesting, colorful, whatever you're presented with. Just add that bit of depth, and it's guaranteed to help you elevate your natural light portraits. So speaking of shallow depth, this actually ties into my next point, which is about choosing the lenses that you want for your natural light photography. Now, when I'm shooting with natural lights, because of what I have become used to, I generally lean towards my 20-40-70 f2.8 lens. And the reason why I like that is when I'm going into any environment, I feel I want to have an establishing shot. So I always want to start probably wide, maybe around 35 or even 24 if I have to, because this just helps me tell more of a better story. Because when I'm shooting wide open, you're seeing my subject and you're seeing where we are. So if where we are shooting is very beautiful and I want to add that to the shot, shooting wide is going to allow me to do that. So you're going to see my subject, see all the interesting elements in the background, and it's being lit up beautifully by the natural light that we have, like the sun. And you know, just shooting wide just gives you a variety of options. You can also zoom in all the way to 70mm. You can capture details in the natural setting, so you can get like a very wide range of images by choosing your lenses correctly. Now I know some people just shoot with like an 85 and they do the zooming with their legs. So if they want to capture like a wider frame, they can walk all the way back and then, you know, just add more of the environment. And it also just adds like a better compression, because when you're shooting at 85, that compression and also shooting wide open just gives like a very beautiful shot. But you can also try that with like a 51.4 or 1.2. Like, I mean, that 50mm focal length is a very popular lens that I feel like every photographer has. And so if you want to shoot natural light, if you're not sure whether you want to, you know, compress your background totally, or whether you want to shoot very wide open and you don't want to go like several feet away from your subject so that communication has become difficult, you can't fall for that 50mm lens. It can help you back away and still add more of your environment, and you can even step closer to your subject, capture detailed shots, and that compression of the 50 is just very beautiful to look at, and it just gives you like a different perspective. It's not too wide, it's not too compressed, it's just a beautiful focal length. So just figuring out all these things are going to help you elevate your natural light photography. Okay, so before we end the video, I have a bonus tip. Now, when people are talking about natural light, sometimes it sounds a little bit scary because you have no dial, you have no switch, you have nothing, no remote to control the sunlight, right? You don't have authority over it. You can't tell it to shine today, you can't tell it when to be harsh or when it should be soft. You basically are working with what you've got. But there are certain things that you can do to, you know, shape the light, control it a little bit, and basically just mold it to what you want to get out of the day. And the way you can do that is by using scrims and reflectors. I'm actually planning on doing a shoot where I'm going to be using scrims and reflectors on a natural light location, so look out for that. So that leads me on to me reminding you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't, because I don't want you guys missing out on upcoming videos. I'm posting every single week, so look out for that. But yeah, using scrims help you diffuse the sunlight. If you're shooting like at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, you can get like really soft, beautiful lights just by diffusing it with a scrim, and then now you can use your reflectors, you know, bounce light back onto your subject. Or maybe even if you're shooting backlit, for example, you can use the reflector to just bounce a little bit of light back onto your subject so they are not too underexposed, especially if they're dark skin. But then you know that I like to shoot with the sun when I'm shooting dark skin models because it just makes them pop a little bit more. So this pretty much ends today's video. I hope you found value out of these tips, and if you did, leave a like. Also subscribe to the channel if you haven't. I'll catch you guys in the next video, and remember, don't ever give up.